Welcome to NFL Live. Offseason workouts are underway for the Cowboys and Saints. Lots to get to on both of those teams with the NFL Draft coming our way next week. We're so glad you're with us today. Dan and I are here. We're celebrating an incredible finish in the Masters tournament. Dan, yep, there we go. I've got my Masters bracelet and earrings.
Play it or win it.
Congratulations,
I loved
Amari.
it.
It was exceptional. Mina Kimes, Adam Schefter joining us, of course, for the hour. Let's begin with the Cowboys, you guys. The Cowboys have had a lot of turnover this offseason. Mike McCarthy is out. Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach. 9-time Pro Bowler Zach Martin retired. And DeMarcus Lawrence left for Seattle after 11 seasons in Dallas. The Cowboys brought in Dante Fowler Jr. and Solomon Thomas to help on the defensive line and traded for corner Kyer Elam. They also brought in running backs Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. But Adam, let's start with Micah Parsons. He's one of the constants with this Dallas team, but he's entering the final year, of course, of his deal. What more can you tell us about where things stand with him and Dallas?
Well, interesting today, Laura, the fact that he was in attendance for the first day of the voluntary off-season workout program, because he wasn't always there in much of the parts of the last two off seasons. But today, on the first day that Brian Schottenheimer really takes over coaching his team, Micah Parsons was there. And I think it's reflective of the ongoing conversations that the two sides have had this offseason, or should we say that Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones have had this offseason, where it seems like it's tracking at some point for the two sides to be able to get a deal done. There's no reason that the Cowboys shouldn't be able to get a deal done with Micah Parsons at some point this offseason. Don't think there's very much new there right now, but I think there has been some progress. There's a good feeling on both sides, and there's a belief that this deal can and eventually will get done for both sides. Both sides need it to get done, and it certainly sounds like it has a real chance to get done this offseason. And the fact that Micah was there, I think, is a positive sign.
Yeah, Adam, I feel like all of us have been part of those conversations because they've happened via the media in a lot of ways too. But Dan, let's go to the other side of the ball, okay? What are your expectations for this Dallas offense in the first year under new head coach Brian Schottenheimer?
I think it looks-wise will be a 180 to what we've seen with this Cowboys offense be under Mike McCarthy. Much more modern. At least if you go back to the time that Brian Schottenheimer last was a play caller in Seattle, a lot of the modern elements that we talk about with offensive football, the play action percentage of 3 wide receiver sets, and then the use of motion. I actually want to see that motion go up. Now, if you look all the way at the bottom, that's the one thing that I do believe has to change just a little bit, is they ran the football on design runs more than half of their first downs. And modern football, the best down to throw the football on is first down. So if he could take some of those schematic things that were in Seattle and maybe deviate a little bit to just such commitment to running the ball on first down, I like a lot of what at least his past shows for what this offense can become.
Yeah, I think it's been really fascinating, Dan, because when you go back to when he was an offensive coordinator in Seattle, it felt like there was a little bit of a push and pull between him and the head coach, Pete Carroll. You alluded to the fact that, they ran the ball on first down. I wonder how much of that was Pete, who loved running the football. How much of it was Schottenheimer? I think we're going to find out now that he's got his chance to completely run the show in Dallas. I agree with you, though, about the nature of the offense. It also reflects how he talked about it when he was introduced. And I think it's something that they can execute with a few additions. One thing I like about the makeup of this offense right now is that they have a very young offensive line, and they've invested a lot into it in recent years. Yeah. So they're making a bet that they can get development out of those young players, many of whom got a chance to play last year. And I like that approach to team building. They got to add a wide receiver. They also have to add a running back. And I actually really love where they're picking in the draft for those needs. A common name who you hear associated with him, if Tedero McMillan is gone, is Matthew Golden. Dan talked about the motion, the play action. Having somebody with that sort of speed to line up at the Z receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb, I really like that pairing, especially in the context of the offense you described. I like both of them receiver-wise in Dallas. I actually think Dallas should take a first-round wide receiver at number 12. McMillan, completely opposite skill set and body frame than CeeDee Lamb. I like the Golden element and something, Mina, that he's done at Texas. When I go and look at that graphic that we put up about Schottenheimer, that second level was the 3 wide receiver sets. They were top 10 in the NFL. You can't do that right now in Dallas. Yeah. So that's not only a need for them, but it's also like the schematic way that Schottenheimer, at least in his past, again, wants to play football.
Be interesting if they do end up going wide receiver with that pick in the first round.
Yeah.
McMillan is that big body. He can win in matchups. And then you've got Golden, who's just so fast, and he's a big play guy too. All right, so we did know, Adam, that Dak Prescott is feeling healthier. What's going on with his status right now?
Yeah. Well, he feels like he's recovered from that hamstring injury that ended last season. And he feels like if they played a game today, which they're not, he could play in that game if they had to. Now, they'll manage it here during the offseason, and they'll treat it with great care and caution as they have. But Dak Prescott is trending the right way, and he's going to be full go, ready to go for the start of training camp this summer. So that is all very encouraging for the Dallas Cowboys, the fact that Dak Prescott has recovered the way he has.
All right, we'll leave that here. Keep an eye on the Cowboys for sure. But let's go to the Saints, whose offseason workouts also begin today.
But it is now April, almost May. Options are thin. The two names that stand out to me, and I'm sure most of you, are Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen. Both those guys have been receiver twos. One of them has played for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll go more in depth on Cooper and Allen, Cooper in particular here. But of these two, which one would you rather go sign? KA for Keenan Allen, AC for Amari Cooper. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Let's go with Allen, the veteran who has kind of spent a lot of his time with the Chargers. Last year was with the Chicago Bears. I think we've seen the decline set in for Keenan Allen, but I think he can still help you. I think he can still be a short-term two. It's not the ideal outcome, don't get me wrong. The ideal outcome went off the board at number 8 overall, the Carolina Panthers. That's how it goes sometimes. But I do think Allen as a veteran option would help you out. Not the only veteran option that's out there still. Of note for Amari Cooper, Nick Harris of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram reports that there is quote-unquote building team interest in an Amari Cooper reunion in Dallas. I would very much be down. I acknowledge Amari Cooper is not the player he was in his prime, and his numbers really dipped last year, although it is at times hard to have a trade and be successful and have multiple different quarterbacks you're catching passes from, and the drops went up. Most of those were in Cleveland. The biggest thing for the Amari Cooper side, if the Cowboys have more interest, great. Does Amari want to come back? That bridge, I think requires a decent amount of reconstruction. To have Amari Cooper be comfortable to come back to Dallas. That did not end well. I think Mike McCarthy was a factor in that. I don't think he was the only factor in that. I don't think there's any ill will between Cooper and the players and other people currently on the coaching staff. But, Cooper kind of got bodied and kind of kicked to the curb and not treated properly by the front office as well. They spent all that time bad-mouthing him and then tried to trade him, which is a terrible process. If you can convince Amari Cooper to come back, yeah, he's not the same guy he was the last time you saw him with the Dallas Cowboys. That's okay. I'm not going to pay him to be the same guy. I'm paying him a pretty limited amount of money to come be a stopgap option for me at wide receiver 2. Plus, he has the chemistry already.